I'm going to pay homage to a wonderful cuisine by making an Iranian crunchy top saffron rice cake, which is layered with chicken and barberries. Now, admittedly, growing up, this wasn't a favorite food of mine, but now that I'm older, I can have this every single day of the week and I absolutely love it. I'm gonna start by rinsing 600 grams of a good quality basmati rice, and by rinsing the rice, essentially you get rid of the starch, and that results in rice, or in the grains of the rice, that are more separate when it is cooked. Now, I should mention that 600 grams of rice, or this recipe to be exact, is enough for 5 to 6 adults. So if you are entertaining and have guests around, then you can adjust the recipe as needed. And you'll notice that the water is quite cloudy at first, but after rinsing the rice a few times, the water is gonna get clearer. So I'm just going to let this soak in that water for about half an hour or 45 minutes. I'm just bringing out my mortar and pestle because I'm going to be grinding some saffron. So I'll just get around half a teaspoon of this saffron into there, and I'll start grinding. And to make it a lot easier to grind that saffron, you just want to get yourself a sugar cube and just drop it in there, and you'll have a much easier job on your hands. So that saffron is now ground. And I'm just gonna add some hot water to this. And just leave it on the side for it to brew. Then I'm gonna start preparing the chicken, which I'll be using to layer the rice with. So I'm gonna start by sweating down 2 shallots, or you can use onions, red or white, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to finely slice and dice this. So just add some oil into your pan. Just go in with the shallots and sweat it down for 2 to 3 minutes. So once you see the onions are a little bit translucent, you can add in the chicken, and I'm using around 900 grams of chicken thighs. So I'll just add these in, and I have cut these thighs into strips beforehand, so I'm just gonna cook them now for around 8 minutes until they're all gone white. And once you've cooked your chicken for around 2 or 3 minutes, you just wanna add in around 2 teaspoons of turmeric, a couple of teaspoons of black pepper, and also around 4 or 5 teaspoons of the saffron water. And this saffron water not only gives it a beautiful color, it also adds a really nice flavor to it as well. And once you've cooked this for around 8 minutes, just want to get a good handful of barberries into there, and this will essentially allow the barberries to rehydrate. So you just want to cook it for around 2 minutes. Make sure the heat is really low because the barberries will burn really quickly. And seeing as barberries are sour, you just want to get around 2 or 3 teaspoons of sugar into there, and by adding the sugar, essentially you're going to balance out that sweetness and the sourness, and the end result is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm just going to turn the heat off and just let that chill over there for the time being. So back onto our rice, and this has been soaking back here for the past half an hour, and I've got this large pan of salted water over a medium heat. You want this water to be really salty, as we're only using that salt to season that rice. Now bring this to the boil. I'm just gonna drain this back here. And once this water's come up to the boil, I'm just gonna add the rice to the pan, let it simmer for 6 to 7 minutes. And bear in mind, we only want to parboil the rice at this stage. So we want this to have still a bit of bite to it. After about 6 to 7 minutes, once this rice is almost cooked, I'm gonna drain it in a colander and immediately run it under some cold water, and that will stop the rice from cooking any further and also stop it from sticking together as well. And now I'm just gonna let this rice drain completely. So while the rice is draining, I'm just gonna move on to the next part, which is making a yogurt mixture. Now I've got 300 grams of non-Greek style yogurt here. If your yogurt is Greek style, just add a splash of water to it and get it to the right consistency, as you don't want it to be too thick. Now I'm just gonna add 3 egg yolks to this yogurt. And a few teaspoons of this saffron water. As well as a good glug of oil, and that oil will give it a nice sheen. And just give it a good mix. So I'm just gonna transfer that into a bigger bowl, as I will be adding my rice into this as well. And as I say, I'm just gonna go in with the rice into that bowl, and we'll just give it a really gentle mix, as we don't really want to be breaking the grains of the rice, and we'll just try and keep them intact. So I'm just gently folding that rice in. Now this might seem like the most bizarre recipe, but I can tell you it is already smelling absolutely beautiful. So that rice and egg mixture and the yogurt mixture is now ready. So all I'm left to do is get that into a large pan and steam it. So I've got myself a large pan here, and I'm just gonna coat the bottom of it nicely with some vegetable oil, trying to get that oil up the sides as well, and then a good splash of this saffron water, and then in we go with half of that rice into this pan. And as you're getting the rice in there, just try and gently press down. And now just layer the chicken and the barberries over the top. And at this point, I'll just sprinkle a good bit of ground cinnamon over the top. And then in we go with the remainder of the rice. So from here, you want to place a clean tea towel over the top of the pan and just place the lid down and try and secure the tea towel just like that, making sure it doesn't fall over the sides. And once you're happy that tea towel is nicely secured, you want to move this onto a really low heat and let it steam for around 50 minutes to an hour. So we are on the home stretch now, but while that rice is steaming here, I'm just gonna make a beautiful topping for the rice cake, and I'm using around 20 grams of dried barberries again. I've got 25 grams of sliced pistachios here, as well as 25 grams of sliced almonds. And I'm just gonna add these to a pan. And I'll get that pan on low heat and just go in with a splash of oil, and I'm just gonna add a few teaspoons of the saffron water there, as well as a splash of this rose water here. And essentially that saffron water and the rose water will rehydrate the dried barberries. And then again, to balance out that sourness from the barberries, I'm just gonna add a couple of tablespoons of sugar, and just make sure you get that on a really low heat, as the barberries can burn really quickly, but just let that sugar caramelize a bit. So this has now been steaming for the past 60 minutes. I'm just going to turn the heat off and start serving this. And to serve this, I'm just going to place a large platter on top of the pan and just invert it. I'm just gonna finish this off by getting some of that garnish onto this. Oh, it tastes absolutely amazing. Really, really delicious. Now that fluffy rice has that beautiful taste from the saffron, and also that topping, the mixture of the barberries, the pistachios and the almonds. They have that sweetness and the sourness. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, I really hope that you enjoyed this recipe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment box below. And I guess that's been it for this one. I'll be seeing you in the next one very soon. Until then, look after yourselves, and remember, the secret ingredient is love.